And it says we are live. I'm going to take it that we are live, and it is Saturday night, and it's time that we're going to do a bit more sci-fi, and we're going to do Space 1999, Episode 2, Force of Life, with guest star Ian McShane. Hooray!
Yep, Lovejoy
Um,
himself.
um, yeah, before we get into this one, there is a couple of few things I want to talk about with this episode, actually, before we make a start. But what I like, and I know we've mentioned this before about the production values on different shows, and what I like with the production values on this particular episode, of Space 1999, it really is a pool of talent. Um, it's this episode is it's written by Johnny Byrne, who hadn't really written a lot. No, there's a couple of Jerry Anderson tie-ins here, right? But he hadn't written a lot before this, but he did do well after it. He wrote several episodes of Doctor Who, Warriors of the Deep. What else was that? Oh God, I think he wrote. Oh God, let's have a quick look before I forget. Because I know he done Warriors of the Deep. I know he done like Heartbeat. I mean, he was the guy who created Heartbeat. He done All Creatures Great and Small. He done Arc of Infinity. And he done The Keeper of Traken as well. So he's very much working in the sci-fi vein.
Yeah, you got a couple of great ones there.
Yeah.
Not sure about Warriors of the Deep though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, but I mean, like he done like 28 episodes of All Creatures. He's done quite a bit, after it. But his writing was obviously he had come out of nowhere, but he'd written something called The Day After Tomorrow, which is not the film, but there was a show that was made by Jerry Anderson called The Day After Tomorrow, and it starred a couple of people from Space 1999 and some bloke named Brian Blessed as well. And it was about this spaceship called the Altaires. And the Altaires is actually one of my favorite designed ships. It's absolutely beautiful. And it actually makes an appearance in Space 1999. Which is great. But it was intended that Day After Tomorrow was going to be a sort of a mini series, I guess, because it was only like they only did one and it was 50 minutes long. But I think they intended it to be longer. But the reason why I brought that up as well is not only did Johnny Byrne write it, but it was also the cinematographer on it was Frank Watts. Frank Watts was the cinematographer for Space 1999. And I bring that up because not only did he work on it, and Martin Bauer work on it, and it's pretty much this cross-pollination of talent, right? But Frank Watts here, I mean, this episode is him just showing what he can do. As a cameraman, as a cinematographer, this really shows what he can do. His list of work includes stuff like Hammer House of Horror, the TV show. The other show was Hammer House of Suspense and Mystery, which is another
Yeah, I
one.
remember those two. Yeah.
So he had done stuff like that. He'd worked on Avengers. He'd worked on the Champions, I think. I will check. Yeah, he worked on the Champions. He'd done quite a bit of stuff. But in this one, he worked on a movie called Daryl. Do you remember Daryl?
I remember that. Yes. Yeah.
he was the cinematographer on Daryl. So his body of work was really good. But I think in this one, you can really see, this one has all the suspense and the all the tropes, and particularly with the lighting as well. You can kind of see his fingerprint on this, and it is very much so. Again, this is the sound editor on this was Peter Pennell, who was the sound editor on Blade Runner. You know, just chucking stuff out,
Yeah.
7 years in Tibet. I mean, Jesus Christ, like the Fisher King. I mean, just throw in a couple of things. Oh, it's Academy nominated. Oh, never mind. You know, yeah, he had worked on quite a bit. But like I said, the pool of talent here, and the other one as well to mention here is the director, which is directed by David Tomlin. And David Tomlin has only ever really had a career working mainly as a first assistant and assistant director, which, you know, is it's not a position that gets a lot of recognition. Normally, on a production, it's usually the director, the producers. You know, the second assistant doesn't normally get recognition. So, for him to win the BAFTA award for for assistant director on a little film called Gandhi, I think it's do you know what I mean? And by the way, if we are talking about, and the reason why I bring it up is because the contributions of these people are contributions of that they make in the industry, that is pieces of entertainment that people are still enjoying to this day across the world. I mean, if I'm going to let me just rattle off some of the things that that he had worked on. She done. Do you remember the TV show The Invisible Man?
Yep.
So he started in that sort of area.
The David McCallum one.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But he started moving up then after he done Danger Man, and then as he gets into the 70s, then he started doing So these are some of his lists of credits, and this is why I say that the assistant directors and things don't get enough recognition, because have a listen to some of these. A Bridge Too Far. Okay. Superman the movie. Zulu Dawn. Star Wars Episode 5, I should say. Empire Strikes Back. Superman 2. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Gandhi. Return of the Jedi. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Out of Africa. Cry of Freedom. Empire of the Sun. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Chaplin. The Three Musketeers. Braveheart. Man in the Iron Man. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Just about every big film of the 80s and 90s, he had his hand in it somewhere.
Human. I mean, the recognition of the level of talent in this episode is crazy. And as you mentioned earlier, it is guest starred by Ian McShane, who has done a couple of things.
Yeah, I've seen him around in a few little bits and pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, particularly in a film series where he's sort of in charge of a hotel. With Mr. Keanu Reeves. And also, was it Deadwood? And that there was another one that he had done.
Game of Thrones, he was in as well for a series.
Oh God, I mean, yeah. John Wick.
He's done a lot.
John Wick, American God. I mean, just the last couple of years, John Wick, American Gods, The Simpsons. It's not as good as it used to be, but
Nah.
Not by a long way.
No, I mean, it's just that what a talent, what an absolute array of talent that is being poured into this, and that's just a couple of the people here. We're not even talking about the effects guys or anything like that, but it's just great to see, and I think this episode it does show it. I think this episode will show, like I would say, you're going to see a lot of really great stuff. There's going to be one or two shots where you're like, oh, they could have blocked that a little bit better. But given the time period that this is being shot, and I mean, I would have said part of that comes down to the editing as well. That is another part of it, because maybe they didn't have the option of choosing a different angle. Maybe they didn't have a choice of choosing a different shot. Because I mean, I believe this was edited by David Lane. So it was. Yeah, it was edited by David Lane, and let's have a look here. What's he got? I mean, he did 24 episodes of this. He done 24 episodes, 10 episodes of The Protectors, Journey to the Black Sun.
Protectors, was that the one Roger Moore and Tony Curtis?
I don't know. I will check. It was.
It's a Lou grade ITC thing. I know there was a
Robert
lot
Vaughn.
of
Wasn't that the
Robert Vaughn.
Persuaders?
Yeah.
The Roger Moore one was the Persuaders, wasn't it?
Was it? See, I'm always getting those mixed up. Yeah, the Protectors was Robert. Robert Vaughn. I can't remember the woman, some New Zealander who. She was a bit of eye candy, but I can't remember her bloody name now.
But
Nairi Dawn Porter, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but as a sort of an editor, his. I mean, some of the stuff that he edited were things like Stingray, Thunderbirds. So he was well known within the editorial thing with the Andersons. So it's quite a good pool of characters. But you are going to see. I will say this: you're going to see a couple of shots where it's like, I would have cut that. It's not bad. It is bad, but it is kind of like you can see what they were trying to do, and they just showed a bit too much.
Yeah, I think I know one of the shots you have in mind there.
But I'm still looking forward to. Getting stuck into this episode. Force of Life. Anybody want to talk about this before we make a start?
Well, I remember when I've seen this 2 or 3 times. I think the most recent I saw it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
It's an episode that has never really grabbed me, but the last time I watched it, it didn't really have my full attention. So I would imagine there's probably a lot going on or something that I missed. I'm quite looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be better than I remember it being.
I think that this episode was kind of waiting for a follow-up to it, which never came. I think that there should have been a. I don't believe there is a follow-up anyway, but there's it's basically an alien sort of. You can't really call it an invasion.
No.
It's just a sort of an alien takeover episode.
It's almost an accidental alien takeover. You get the impression there was no initial malice in the opening events. So
things do turn sinister, but there's no real explanation as to why.
Yeah, which I do like. In modern science fiction, you've had modern films in general. There is always this obsession with having to explain absolutely everything.
God. Do you know
why can't we just have a little mystery of something that is just unexplained, and you're having to deal with somebody?
I just had this very argument with a guy over Ghostbusters Afterlife. Because I sat down and watched Ghostbusters Afterlife. If you haven't seen it, I loved it. Right? I genuinely loved the film. It's not Ghostbusters, and it's something different, and it's something new, and it's a different type of movie. Right? It's not the Ghostbusting in it is the background. It's not what the film's about. And literally, there was one of the people that was complaining. One of the complaints I heard about the film was this whole thing, and it has to do with and spoiler alert here. Okay, a little small. I'll try not to spoil it for you, but it has to do with the fact that Egon is away from his family, right? And my whole point of contention on it was the fact that the guy was saying, well, he wouldn't have never have done that. I don't believe that he would have never have done that because he's just being an arse if that's the case. I was like, wait a minute now. They haven't told you the story. You never find out the story because the only story that you know, it comes from his daughter. And whatever happened she only knows from her mother's point of view. Now, for all we know, Egon's wife, whilst he was doing research, was the town bike.
Yeah.
But she's not going to say that to her daughter, is she?
Yeah.
By the way, it was knocking boots with half of New York. Like, she's not going to paint herself in a bad light, is she? So the fact that her daughter doesn't know the full story of what went on, but these people expect to be led hand in hand from plot point to plot point to plot point, just so that their entire world doesn't fall down around them. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not. You've got to think for yourself.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
many reasons as to why this could be the case. You just because you don't not told it, you're not privy to that information. And but anyway, I just thought I just loved the film. Anyway, I've got to be honest, I loved it through and through. I thought, it's not as good as the first one, but it's way better than the second one. And all three Ghostbusters films, as far as I'm concerned, are the ones that you should be watching. And forget that bloody thing from 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a monstrosity!
Yeah.
But there we are. Yeah. But yeah, with the storytelling in this, I think that the storytelling in Force of Life is you don't get all the answers and you don't need all the answers. I think the story is pretty much you've got to deal with the situation that you're handed, and it's one of this is what we need to do to survive, I guess. It's a weird situation, but I think I think the storytelling in this works really well. I think the performance from Ian McShane works well as well, because there's this point whereby you see him like before the takeover, and it's kind of like he's very sort of chirpy. He's got a sort of upbeat demeanor.
Yeah. And it
And
changes
it totally
dramatically.
changes.
Yeah.
And he becomes serial killer. Yeah, but again, I think what I like with this is the camera work. The camera work sells it more than anything else. I love the fact that for some shots it's like, oh, they've decided to go from a 35mm down to a 12mm lens. That's really distorting and warping the sets. Like it's almost fisheye lens type of look, and you see it with the sort of his madness. I just think it's beautifully shot. Some of the decisions in this I think are absolutely genius, to be honest though. And there's a lot of shots whereby it's a power play where the camera work is down low, looking up at him all the time. And there's a lot of times where the camera work's scraping the floor, type of deal. And given that they're using Mitchell cameras, that's not an easy thing to pull off, considering the mounting system that they've got to use to hold those damn things up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be I think it's a wonderful production, to be honest with you. I think this is a really good example of what a lot of good talent can do all in one go. Anything that you want to add, Chris?
I don't even know if I've seen it before, to be honest with you.
Really?
Well, a lot of Space 1999. I think when I was a kid, I haven't seen these since the first time they were on.
Yeah.
Or or the second time. Early 80s Sunday morning type stuff, or Saturday morning, whenever it was on. Most of my memories of Space 1999, as it turns out, was the second series with the weird Vulcan-esque shape-changing alien woman.
Yeah, metamorphosis. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a feeling I've definitely seen the first episode before that we watched previously. I'll let you know if I've seen this before as we're watching it, because I've got a feeling a lot of these, if I've seen them, it's going to come back to me as we watch, because when we watch these, I don't go and read the synopsis or look at anything. So I'll try and watch them fresh.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge jump in quality between season 1 and season 2. But, I still enjoy season 2. I still think it's really fun stuff. But I think again with what was happening at the time, because literally, from what I remember, they were making this, and then they made Day After Tomorrow. It's also known as Into Infinity. That's also the other name for it. But they also made that in between the hiatus between season 1 and season 2. And what happened was that NBC commissioned The Day After Tomorrow as a more youthful show. It was only 50 minutes. It was a one-off special. Um, so when that happened, I got a feeling Jerry Anderson kind of went, okay, they want us to target a more juvenile audience. And I think that's what happened in between season 1 and season 2, and then
Yeah, hence the dramatic change.
yeah. But that's the way it is. I think because like Space 1999 was always aimed at an adult audience.
Oh yeah, there's some episodes to come. You can really see that.
But anyway, I'm ready to go if you are.
Yeah.
I am all set.
Ding, 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 ding. I'll be pressing play in 3, 2, 1, go. Nice little blue blob. It's worth noting as well, because like I said, I know this was shot 35mm. It was shot on a 35mm film. So you can actually get, and I know they've done this, you can actually get Space 1999 in full HD. It's been remastered, and you can get it in full HD widescreen.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few adverts on Facebook for it. They keep advertising these 4 Space 1999 movies.
Yeah,
I haven't got a clue what they're. I don't remember any like feature films of this.
No, I don't.
They've got to be joined up. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, like they did with Battlestar Galactica back in the day.
Yeah, they've done it with Star Trek Next Generation. You can buy the best of both worlds as a movie form as well.
Yeah,
now, a lot of them.
Yeah. Now we've all been there.
I'll tell you now, I've never been in bed with Ian McShane. Just putting it out there so you can say we've all been there.
Have you not?
No, I haven't.
Well, the rest of us have.
Yeah, I mean he does get around, doesn't he?
I feel so left out.
Lovely model shot.
Yeah, that satellite dish ain't bad either.
It's very, very high detailed. Shatner could walk through in his motion picture outfit and he'd fit right in, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think these sets are geniusly designed as well. The scale of them, the sheer scale of them is...
Oh yeah, I mean they're fantastic. I mean, look, we're showing this in episode 1 after watching Blake 7 last week, and then you get this. I mean, it's the difference
it's not
is staggering.
comparable. Yeah.
Goes to show what happens when you throw money at something. So you've got the money to build the sets. I mean,
this was shot at Pinewood as well, so not at a bloody television centre or bloody Ealing. But I mean, and it's shot on a 35mm film. They actually shot it at 35mm because it was going abroad, and that's the only reason why they shot it at 35mm, because they wanted to sell it to different companies. But yeah, they're just absolutely stunning production.
I'd have been off on my toes by now. As far away from
Yeah.
that room as I could get.
Hell of a crash room. I'm going to tell you this right now. That little wobbly effect where he done the blurring there, I genuinely, this is nearly, 50 years old? I have no clue how they did it. I genuinely don't know. You go back and watch it. The whole thing is distorting, and I just don't know how they did it. I know what cameras were using. I know what lenses they were using. I have no bloody clue how they pulled it off. Her daughter, Juliet Bain, looks the absolute image of her. Juliet Landau, isn't it? Do. As 70s as you can get. It is, though, isn't it?
It's great 70s music, though.
It's like they've gone up market on Starsky and Hutch, innit? Directed by David Tomlin. We would have taken you to a medical centre, but we thought we'd best leave you on the floor.
Yeah. Just leave him in the middle of the reactor, that'll do.
It's all right, they'll send him a letter in a minute to tell him he's got an appointment next week. Supposed to be caring for him when they're playing a game of Pong behind him.
Currently on the toilet, Doctor. Which these damn things wouldn't automatically turn on.
How long will you be? I'm just doing the paperwork.
Now I know something else has used this trope, but I don't know what. Where he's got to keep turning the temperature up. I can't
Oh,
remember what it is.
there's been several episodes of Star Trek where they've had to do that.
It's just like a he's draining energy and he needs it hotter. It just like
Yeah, it's. I've definitely seen it in other stuff as well. I can't remember what
yeah.
it was, but
I just love the sets. I love how modular the sets are and how easy it is to just rejig them for uh to become anything. Like you can just clear this room out. You can just take the sets apart, put them back together, and make it a whole brand new room. And it's not sure you're gonna get some on a moon base.
yeah.
Pressure is unlikely to happen.
No. The best you're going to get there is a little bit of recycled blowy stuff.
Yeah. Unless they've got an arboretum somewhere. It must have been fun to work on something like this with like all the art design and stuff, like the half globe there and the globe and the acetate sheets to make all the graphics and everything. It must have been a real good fun time. Like I said, look at that! Look at the bloody scale of that set. And that corridor is joined on. You hardly ever see a joined on set like that. Normally the doors open, they step in, and then it's a different set. Like you hardly ever see it looking down the corridor. Like
Yeah, but this is a Jerry Anderson production. I mean, Jerry Anderson is Jerry Anderson.
and 1970s lampshades, still stylish, mind. Must live round you. I have the same reaction. Mr. Freeze. Nice to meet you.
Well,
So
he
the
delivered
time he
that
must be
line
going.
better than Arnie did.
Looks like this is going to be a chilling episode.
Yes.
I said that on purpose to annoy Chris. I'll stop now.
It worked.
Excellent.
Be cool.
You can spot where the advert breaks would have been, can't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So throw him out first.
I don't freeze her. She's lovely.
Yeah, so I preferred her in the costume she was in when we first saw her.
What, duvet?
Well, actually, yeah, that weren't bad either.
I mean, her character is one of. I think she could have been written a little bit better. You'll see why later on. It's just like.
I think I have seen this before. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen, but either that or I'm getting strong deja vu. There's bits I recognise. I recognise the frozen drink and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
matey all covered in ice. So yeah, somewhere in the mists of my memory, I have seen this before.
So he's already told her that he doesn't feel well, and he's going to see a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. So now she said, "Oh, if you don't feel well, you will tell me. Do you want it in blood?"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is the level of her intelligence, and it plays out the rest of the episode exactly the same way. I mean, you're trapped on a base, so it might be a quite a nice horror setting if they wanted to do like a horror version, because you can't really go outside.
Yeah,
You
there's no way of escaping.
This is the point where she should be pressing alarm buttons.
yeah.
Yeah, activate the help me switch.
She has got a comm lock on. She could radio for help, I suppose.
Yeah. Or shout, hold the
Yeah.
doors.
Yeah. I love the bloody camera work in this. This is awesome shit.
I'm quite liking the slow motion work, to be honest with you.
Well, we did have some pretty good slow motion stuff in the previous episode as well.
I think my reasons were possibly different, but
We've all seen Baywatch, okay? God, Barbara being stiff as a board, isn't she? Like she is, isn't she?
It's not pure theory. It's not even it hasn't developed as far as being a theory yet.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Yeah.
pure hypothesis.
Yeah. It's a guess. Remember the bit where he said, "Don't leave the apartment"?
I think we remember that a bit better than she does.
I mean, has he got the right to imprison her in her own room?
No.
I mean, she might have work to do.
He didn't say, you have to stay here. What he said was, "Stay away from me. I'm not feeling well. I need to see a doctor." So he could be infected. And with anyone who's infected with anything, the last thing you need to be doing is cuddling up with them.
It's no time for an ice lolly.
Mm-hmm. I know I've said this before. I just love the fact that they've these sets are closed sets. These sets got ceilings. It makes such a big difference.
Well, they needed to make it claustrophobic because they're stranded on the moon. So
But it just makes it more believable, the fact you can see the ceilings.
yeah,
Which is something that is left out of most shows. But these feel like real locations. Like, they don't feel like they're in the studio. Hell of a shot.
Yeah, I'll say.
I should keep them going for a minute, shouldn't it?
Hmm.
I've got one of them readers behind me.
You have, yeah. Yeah, the fact that they're using these cameras and they're going bloody hands-free at times. Look at that. Look at that heat vapor effect. That's bloody awesome. I don't know why they thought of doing that, but it's brilliant. A Star Siege player just said, "Hi lads, good evening."
Hello.
It's kind of like a really good version of Nuclear Man, isn't it? Like he's drawing energy from everywhere. He's take the energy away, he goes cold. I mean, it's not. You can move him. It isn't too dangerous. You can use these things called straps, right? Straps, stretcher. Oh, he's gonna touch him. He's gonna touch him. Dun dun dun. I mean, he could have put his hand on his chest. I don't think he needed to do that.
Yeah. Be like, oh, yeah, he's alright.
Yeah.
Perhaps they were planning for a future 3D release or something. You know, the old 3D films were like, everyone's like, yes, you.
Yeah.
In 3D. This, I'd love to see a 3D transfer of this. I would, and this episode in particular as well, because of the changes between the lenses, where they go jump from 50mm to 12. I mean, it's just.
I
Where
don't
are we on the
know.
episode? We are currently 30 minutes in. You can open it on Amazon. Fast forward.
I didn't know this was
Yeah,
on
go on.
Amazon.
And I'm again watching on BritBox. Coming up to 19 minutes. So 19 minutes and 20 seconds.
What, left, you mean?
Yes. No, but I like the fact that they've actually got glass in the windows. I mean, it's the set design in this is brilliant.
It's just small details, but it does make such a big difference.
Oh yeah,
You know, things like you say, actually having ceilings in the rooms here,
like
having glass in the windows. You know,
Well, a lot
it
of the
really
set
it's
does.
so
design,
simple.
It really does set it apart. You know.
yeah, a lot of the set design is film quality. You know, there's no two ways about it. You know, these sets they've got for Moonbase Alpha are as good as a lot of the stuff that was in the original Star Wars film. I know they got more budget as the films went on and became successful, but
Yeah.
this could be the inside of a. You know, Admiral Akbar could walk around the corner and you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You know, it could be on
Yeah.
that ship.
But
And I think
even
that's,
stuff
that's
like that, like this now in the medical center, now where they're doing this light in here, it's such a simple setup, but it's so effective with all the ceilings and the glass and everything. It's so effective, and this push in here. I like the fact that, and this is where it gets really clever. If you'll notice, the windows, they're not vertical; they're tilted.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the reason for that is, as well as part of the set design, is so that you can't see the camera crew. 'Cause if they were vertical, you'd
Yeah.
be able to see all the crew. So they tilt them like that, so it reflects down to the floor. It's why the screens in the Next Generation are at those angles as well. Yeah, the sets were all designed modular, so they could make high quality components resemble them and reassemble them on demand. Yes, yeah. Again, they could just take them apart, put them together, and you've got an instant new set. And all you've got to do is light this slightly differently, choose different panels to light. Now, when I mentioned the blocking in this episode, and I said that there's some naff bits going on, here we go. This is some of the naff. Like, she's supposed to be keeping an eye on him. She knows he's dangerous. So why is she got her back to him?
Yeah. She's finally heard as he breaks through the door.
Yeah. But there's a part where the guy rushes in. We're going to see that in a second. But I just love this way. You can clearly, like I said, you can clearly see Frank Watts' fingerprints from Hammer horror and suspense, and it's all there. It's lovely. It is absolutely lovely. A lot of cinematographers could take notes from this episode. I'm not sure you need to see the wires under the desk there, but now watch this pillock for some blocking. Ready? I mean, what the hell was that? Open the door. There's a maniac in here. Like, I mean, you just running like, oh. How did he miss him anyway? It's an empty room. I mean, I would not have done that. I wouldn't have shot it that way. That's the only thing I would have changed. I would have changed in the edit for that. I would have actually done that from the reverse angle, so he comes running through the door. She shouts, "Look out!" and then cut to that angle where he grabs him, and then I think that would have been, even though it was just as silly on the block, and I think it wouldn't have been as silly. No, I must go to him. He's only deadly.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, we're up a creek without a paddle. I will say this about Space 1999. I love how fragile they try to sell Moonbase Alpha. Like it's on a knife edge, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
Now let's see the women's locker room. You hear that, love? Don't approach him. Do not.
But she loves him.
He hasn't got a cold. He's got a touch of death about him.
Yeah. Well, see, they had the right idea. They saw
Yeah.
him. Right, run.
Again, lovely model work.
Yeah, the exterior shot of Alpha is, I think it's one of the best pieces of model work I've seen.
Again, it's a very high production values. Very high. 1975, they haven't got motion control. They haven't got any. I mean, they're making this exactly the way that you think that they made it. You know, they built a model. They put it on a stage.
If you want exterior models, I mean, then at that time you called Jerry Anderson, didn't you? He was the
Yeah.
man.
Well, I mean, the guys. Well, the guys there would have been. I mean, Martin Bauer worked a lot on this. But Brian Johnson.
Is that before he got the job in ACDC?
But they had a fair, quite a few. I mean, I think there was at one point. I think there was like 6 people working in the model unit, and that's not including the cameraman.
So if you think of the experience that the Jerry Anderson company had with models, I mean, you know, you don't need me to tell you about that. He's
Well, I mean, you know, he was reliant on people like Derek Meddings and Reg Hill as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, Reg Hill, massive influence. Now, does he look well to you? I mean,
thing is, how many times have you seen this in films and television? It's a standard thing. I'd be disappointed if she didn't do that.
I mean, what's he gonna do? Like throw knives at her? He's explicitly told her to back off since the start of this.
He certainly don't look well there, does he?
I mean, let her.
So
I want her to die.
if she has that much of a death wish, then yeah, better off without her.
Clearly, she's suicidal. They really should have backed up batteries, shouldn't they? This whole thing where he's heading to the generator as well. It's I can't remember what like I've seen this sort of story done again more recently, and I can't remember where the hell I've seen it.
Weren't there something similar to this in The Expanse
Maybe.
with the molecule when I was trying to get? Oh, I can't remember.
It's worth remembering as well that Zorif is an anagram of froze.
I suspect that was intentional.
Yes.
Now he's having a bad day.
I mean, it's alive. I don't know about he's alive, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
alive. Again, lovely effect. Using some 3M material. Again, look at these band shafts of light. Brilliant. Yeah, just one on switch.
I say, was it just an on-off switch there?
Click. There we go. Again, lovely set designs. You know, all these little intricate bits. They didn't have to put any of this in. You know what I mean? This is stuff that they just did. And that's really not bad makeup, you know.
And even though this wasn't really sort of like aimed at kids, you can bet your life the majority of the audience were kids.
Oh,
They
yeah.
probably would have scared the living crap out of some of them.
Oh, definitely.
Scared the living crap out of me, and I'm nearly 50.
That's a hell of a door as well. Look at that.
They'll probably reuse it in another episode.
It goes boom. Oh. would not want to take our bump. I'd go through the glass, but I wouldn't go back first onto the steps. I'd have to wear a good thick pad on the back to take that knock.
That's why you have good stuntmen, isn't it? I suppose.
Oh yeah. Stair stunts are always the hardest. They are the worst.
Generator 3's a bit knackered.
Yeah, just a touch. It needed energy to feed.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I've never been able to forgive him for Lovejoy. I detest that program. I really do.
He done well in Deadwood. And again, he's pretty good in John Wick.
gosh, she didn't even understand. Stay in your room. Don't come near me. So
No,
now you expect
exactly.
her to pick up on Deep Space.
Just explaining to her with puppets, like.
You're not getting it, are you? Shall I get the crayons out?
Ah, you've eaten them. Right, okay. She's there with half a pencil sticking out of her ear, like. Ah, there's the problem. There we go. That's the end of the episode. Do, do, do. Lovely. There we go. Space 1999's Force of Life. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't have such a hard time believing the girlfriend or the wife would behave like that. If she thought for a minute she could save him. People do that in real life, man. You know, people run into burning buildings and whatever.
Idiots. You know, this. I totally agree. Idiots are everywhere. But there's a point whereby she's like literally walking out and he's literally going like, "I'm going to murder you." And she's like, "No, come with me."
Yeah.
And it's like, haven't you got the message? Like, just let her die. If she's that determined, let her die. I mean, I wish that she had been written a little bit better than that. That's all I'm saying. I don't want much, but it would have been nice if they just put something else in there as well to say, like, you know, she wanted to be with him, so or she was affected as well, or she'd become infected, or it's just taking longer. You know, it just something, just anything. It just felt like her stupidity was winning out. Like, but I think it's a great episode. I think it's a nice little sci-fi episode, and it's one of those ones of, again, being trapped with the killer. It's that sort of story, so I do like it. Lukosa, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I'm going to be the odd one out here. Right, well, let's get the good parts out of the way. Yeah, fantastically filmed. No denying that. Again, set's superb. I thought the story was quite threadbare. It was being stretched out, and there wasn't a great deal there to begin with. No,
I mean,
I'm not really
it
a
was a
fan.
simplified story. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
simplified story. I'll give you that. There wasn't it was pretty much following the one person, and it was
yeah.
literally sort of more just about centered about him. It had less to do with the moon base. It had less to do with the crew.
When I was saying at the start of this that I'm hoping it will be better than I remembered it to be. I remember one of the reasons why I wasn't all that sort of like bowled over with it was because the last time I watched it straight after watching Breakaway, which is such a great episode that episode 2 has got to do something fantastic just to keep up with that.
It's a different pace, though, isn't it? I mean,
it's very.
It is a much different pace because, like with Breakaway doesn't stop.
No,
Breakaway is gunning it right up until the end. Whereas with this is kind of much slower. I can understand why they did this, though, because this is much more of a bottle episode because they don't leave Moonbase. So it's
no, I mean, we don't even see an eagle apart from in the title sequence.
No, so I mean, it is very much a bottle episode. I guess that's what they needed to do for budgetary reasons, whereby you're looking at a full season here. So it doesn't bother me. And given that we had such a good time with Breakaway, having a different paced episode and one that's a bit more taking a different direction, you need that though. You do need to take a different direction.
Yeah. Because if it had all been like the same pace, the same almost like breakneck speed as Breakaway was, and it was like that all the way through, it would just be far too much.
It'd be exhausting.
Yeah, that's right. So you do need episodes like this, and even though I say I'm not really a fan of this one, it is necessary. You want to break up, the rhythm of the whole thing. Otherwise, it gets predictable. And even the action scenes would then get boring, and that's the last thing you want.
I mean, do you think, Chris, it would have worked better for you if, say, I'm pretty sure Collision Course is quite an action-packed one, the next episode. Would you have preferred it if those episodes were swapped round so you had like a really fast one and another speedier episode leading to a slow one? Do you reckon that would have made this one seem a bit more palatable?
Honestly, no, I don't think it would have made any difference. I agree. Collision Course is a much better episode than this. But I would I'd keep it in the order that they've got it. So I'd certainly keep this at episode 2 and have Collision Course next. So I don't think that would change in the order that they were. I think shown.
That maybe they should have thrown in another element into this to have a bit more going on that wasn't so focused.
Yeah.
But then that would change the pace of it then. So I get why they would want to slow it down a little bit.
I mean, let's face it, doing an episode like this is really, really difficult to do. The shining example that instantly stands out where they did anything like this, where you're stuck in space, you've got no escape, there is this single force that's basically going around killing you on sight, called Alien.
Yes.
And that, they did a fantastic job, but trying to actually place where Alien worked and this, well, for me, didn't, I got a hard time actually being able to pick out where one failed and one didn't.
I think I know what you're getting at there, but the difference, I would say the difference in that and Alien is the fact that the female in Alien was quite sensible all the time and rallying against it and people weren't listening, whereas the female in this one was a complete tit.
Yeah, that really didn't help, They wouldn't have someone let's face it, she was bloody stupid. And they surely they wouldn't have someone that stupid on Alpha there.
It's not only that. And more seriously, with Alien, you had people that were going. There was no reason to not corner Ian McShane and keep him in, unconscious in medical bay, right? There's no reason why, with Alien, they had a purpose for stopping the ship, for going to that planet, and that's because they were told to investigate. Otherwise, they would lose their bonus and so on.
Yeah.
There's no incentive for these people in this episode to keep doing what they're doing, aside from survival. So that's it for Ian McShane's character, which is why you wanted to keep going back to the generator room. But for security, for the security of the base, for everybody else, that should have been put down instantly. Like when he's under guard, when he's in the medical bay, he should have been under guard in the medical bay.
Yeah.
They just had Barbara Bain sat down with her back to him.
Yeah, that's right. Again, so stupid, but
yeah, the blocking is terrible. But
they couldn't have had Barbara Bain's back facing towards the camera, otherwise you'd have seen the board that's stuffed up there.
She's a 2x4.
She was a bit wooden in this. I don't think Barbara Bain's like that throughout the whole series, or or is she?
I think she is.
Oh right, okay.
Okay, I seem to recall there are a few episodes where she was all right, but that could just be, I don't.
She's kind of frozen. But I mean, I think here's where writing logic breaks down. If it's something that you can automatically go, that's a bad thing to do, it's badly written. Because if you can literally sort out, I just watched Titans on Netflix. I love Titans. I think it's a brilliant show. Right. The problem is the writing is sometimes horrendous. You've got, I won't give anything away, but there's a villain and they're about to do something really bad and really terrible. So instead of going, hey, you know what, let's go get them all together. Dick Grayson's kind of like, no, you stay here and I'll go by myself. That seems sensible. And everybody else goes along with it. You're just going, I can think of a million reasons why this is a bad idea. And that's what happens here. If you've got somebody who is potentially dangerous, the last thing you do is put them in an empty room, leave them unguarded.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. There's no reason to go any further than that. And then, why haven't you got guards throughout that area? Why haven't you restricted access? Why haven't you got, given how dangerous things have become, why isn't everybody armed? Why isn't everybody, there's so many reasons. There's so many, like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do, and that's where this falls down. It's same with Alien, except that the big difference there with Alien is the fact that they don't have the access to it.
No.
So they've laid down the circumstances of their own. That's why I think, it's a shame that Alien 3 is the situation that it's in that how that film turned out, because I think Alien 3 is a brilliant concept. Where it's crashed into a prison whereby they haven't got weapons. Why would they have weapons? It's a prison. That, and I think that's a brilliant idea. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
No, Alien 3 was not great.
No, exactly. But a good cast, man. Solid cast.
That's the big problem with Alien 3. With a cast like that, you'd think, oh, this is going to be great, and it wasn't.
I'm a little bit softer on Alien 3, but the only reason I understand why people criticise it, but that was the first Alien film I saw at the cinema, and as you both know, Aliens is my all-time favourite film. And I was only 14 when Aliens come out, so there's no way I was going to get to see that at the cinema. So Alien 3 was the first one I saw. So for me, it was I've got I suppose I've got the nostalgia tinted
So-
glasses on for it.
Out of curiosity, then, just throwing this out there, had they done this and made this a bit more like Aliens, whereby everybody's armed, do you think you'd have enjoyed that a bit more, Lakosa?
I mean, it's difficult to say. It probably would have helped because, well, didn't he actually give an order that sidearms are to be carried at all times, and if you see him,
kill.
shoot to kill.
Yeah.
To kill,
And the
yeah.
first two people he sees, they just run off or so.
And that his girlfriend starts chasing him.
Yeah, so much for that order,
I mean, that's
hell.
that's top security you want there, isn't it? As soon as they see the bad guy, they execute the brave Sir Robin manoeuvre.
Yeah. So it's not so much. If it had been more like Aliens, it's more a case of if they'd actually listened to what the commander told them to do.
But this is the other side of this as well, which I want to get into as well, is the Ian McShane's character, Zoref. He's a character that is pretty much trying to cope with the situation of what's happened to him, and I like his portrayal in this, in the fact that he is not sure of what's happening to him, and he's also trying to. He himself is trying to cope with it. Do you know what I mean? He's unaware of, or if he is aware, he doesn't seem like he's aware of killing people.
I've got
When
to
it does
give
happen.
massive props to Ian McShane for his portrayal because, like you said before we started watching it, he starts off as a bit of a cheeky chappy. Wakes up in the morning. His instant thought is to try and get it on with his girlfriend, and then she's like, "Look at the time," and he has to go to work. And then he portrays confusion, fear, menace, and
Serial
he manages to do all that. We're not really saying a lot. And all they've really done is chuck some fake sweat on him. The rest of it's done with he's emoting with his expressions. So I think he was definitely a standout for that. It's a shame they killed his character and couldn't.
The other thing as well is the fact that this is the difference between acting and reacting, is the fact that he is telling the story of this character's demise through just his performance, whereas reacting is you give him something to react to. So choose the circumstance to react to that. Whereas he is literally telling the story of this guy who's literally coming apart. Like he is trying his best to keep control of the situation, and he's failing, and you're losing him. So it's kind of like it's almost a commentary on terminal illness, really.
Yeah, I mean, he really makes you feel for the character as well, because there's the bit where
it's completely under his control.
Yeah, where he freezes the girl, the one where she was running away in slow motion. You kind of see him to start with. He's really like fighting it, and he's sweating because he doesn't want to do it. And then there's that switch where he just straight over.
Yeah,
and then he's into serial killer mode, and then the
and it's not his fault. He's taken over. It's just
no, it's not his fault. It's Anton's gone, and the being is there.
Exactly, it is almost like possession, or some kind of like schizophrenia almost. There's two personalities there.
Yeah, but again, it's against his will. It's against anything that he wants to do, and he's just living with the consequences of it. And I mean, there is the one thing I would say about his character is the fact that when his character does end, obviously there's no way out for him anyway. Because even if they were going to write this slightly differently to say, "Oh, he survived," I think the only way I would have ended this episode was that he would have killed himself.
Yeah, no, it would have, if they'd have. I mean, I said it's a shame they couldn't save his character. That's me liking the way Ian McShane played it. If they'd have saved his character, it would have been another one of them moments like in The Next Generation where it's like Wolf's broke his back. No, it's all right. Klingons have got a second spine. It's like, so yeah, to kill him and to see the entity fly off back into space, is the perfect ending. It would have.
Yeah.
I would have probably given it 3 out of 10. If,
I mean,
if not less, if they'd have done
if you
that.
try to think about it, if you had been in that situation of being that individual and knowing that you'd been responsible for those deaths in some way, even though you weren't, but it was still happening to you, and whether or not you had memories of it or whatever, I think it would have been, considering his original demeanor was
Yeah.
so contrary to
Yeah.
how I think he wouldn't have been able to live with himself anyway.
No, no, he wouldn't have done.
So,
No.
so this end to this episode is kind of more. I think it's probably the best way out for his character.
Yeah.
We also get several questionable things going on with Moonbase Alpha, in the fact that Martin Landau decides that all the power needs to be shut off. There's no backup. Why does all the power need to be shut off everywhere when you know this person's not need in the medical unit?
Yeah, especially the medical units. Surely it would have been a matter of course that the medical units would have had their own power supply totally separate from the rest of the base. So yeah, that didn't really work too well for me.
You would have thought on a base like that, everything. I mean, I know the sets are modular, but you would have thought the power would have been modular as well. So you can.
But even if it wasn't, right? I mean, you could still shut down 90% of the base without having to shut down the hospital.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You would think on a base on the moon, they would need to conserve power. I know they've got solar power. Well, they haven't because they're away from the sun now, but. You know, they've got something that's generating power.
I don't think you're meant to think about the they're away from the sun bit. You know,
you turn sections off when there's no one in it. So you would have thought really they could have corralled him to where they wanted him to go by turning the power on and off, not turning the whole thing off.
I think that's what they were intentionally trying to do, but I don't think it was explained very well in the script. I think they were intentionally trying to guide him towards the generator, but I mean, maybe the other thing to have done was maybe to have guided him towards an eagle and just blasted him off into space. Put him just sort of shot him out. I think they were concerned that any section with power would draw him to it. Well, that's true, but at the same time, if you've got a large body of power, they knew he was heading towards the generators. So the second they know he's in section 43 alpha, knock on section 2. He's not gonna, even if it's momentarily, it's enough to surely you don't need it to be off. Like he's on the other side of the base. You know, he's way over there.
It is absolute madness that they didn't have a battery backup system for life support machines in the medical bay. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've been alive since 1972, and hospitals have always had, provisions for power cuts.
Yeah,
and that's the other side of it. And so obviously, I get it. I know that they were trying to sort of make sure that he wasn't going to be drawn to any sorts of energy sources. But again, the other part of that then is to make sure that you lay down the breadcrumbs to the way you want him to go. That you provide lots of energy into other parts, so that he's drawn like Wild Coyote with a bloody birdseed. Although same sort of result, really, just going off the cliff. But as for the look of this show, though, I just think it's amazingly put together. I think the production values on this are outstanding. The set, just the size of the sets as well. It's really impressive. It's impressive today's standards.
Yeah, definitely. It is. Like I said when we was watching it, it's literal film or movie quality, however you want.
It is absolutely.
Yeah. I know. Like obviously, some of the sets are dated in how they are laid out in deco. Like some of the computer panels look really, 70s. Let's be honest. It's not. You can't escape that. this is pre Star Trek the motion picture. This is pre Star Wars. They are very much these blank nebulous computer panels with random color gel buttons on them, and that's the way it looks.
Yeah, I try and ignore that
Some of the
when we're watching
no,
some of this
but
stuff.
some of the stuff that they do here, some of the panels and some of the other work that they do here is very well done. You know, some of them actually have real sort of identifying marks and things like that on it. It's the general stuff. I mean, it's the general banks of panels that have just got random stuff on it, and it. I mean, I think we talked about this the last time when we done Breakaway. That
Yeah.
you can see in the Eagles, whereby they've
Yeah,
got
that's right,
actual
yeah.
clocks and displays and properly laid out, and then over on the side, then it's just a jumble of lights and just bits of acrylic, and it's with the art department really, to be honest. So I think it does get better later on.
Well, the other thing to remember with that, Carwin, is in 1975, we're talking pre-VHS, even pre-Betamax players. These people weren't making this thinking, I hope no one watches this in the future and pauses it and tries to read the buttons because...
No, but it's not a question of that. It's a question of the actual layout. It's the question of how these things have been laid out on the panel. It's kind of like...
It looks too random, you know.
Yes.
There's no like set pattern there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's no reason for it all being all scattered.
Whereas other times whereby, for example, where they've done the communications shot, whereby they had the buttons laid out properly, so you could select a channel and you could select the number and you could select, and they had a proper punch pad on there. That looks great. That stuff looks amazing. But then you also get these bits of board where they've just got random squares cut out with colour gel stuck behind, and just acrylic buttons and shit just stuck to the front of it, and it just looks like, you know, what are you doing?
I wonder how much different it would have looked if it had been made, because I mean this predates, the 8-bit computers. I mean, it even predates like the Atari console. But I remember like in Red Dwarf on the bridge when Dave Lister's trying to delete the books from Holly's mind. He's using a Commodore 64, and you know you actually got a proper computer console keyboard in front of him. So that's how computers look.
Well, they did have computer keyboards back then. Yeah.
But
the
they weren't
IBMs at the time.
Yeah, they did, but they weren't as like prevalent in everything because they are your average Joe on the street didn't know what a computer looked like, whereas now they do. That's all I'm getting.
But I think the other part of that as well is that if you went into something like the BBC or the ITV and you went into the video mixing gallery, into the actual gallery itself, you could see, because they would have had, you know, all the analog stuff just laid out, all the equalizers and everything, and you can see how something like that is organized.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So it's not, the video mixing. I mean, we all know the obviously the big video mixing desk is obviously used for blowing up the Death Star at the end of Star Wars. There we go. Just switch from channel A to channel B.
Yeah.
No wonder it blew up. You're watching BBC Two.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean that sort of thing, that sort of layout, it just takes a little bit of extra time, and we know that they can do it because I mean I can see it on the desk there, whereby you've got the little viewer, and the little viewer's got that little graphic on it with the half a dartboard, I guess. But it looks like it does something. It looks like it's laid out and it's not random.
I do think I'm sat in front of a CGI recreation though. I must admit.
Yeah.
I mean, if I do that, doink, there you go.
There we go.
I think that is CGI. Yeah, that's the inside of an eagle, isn't it? But
it is, yes. That is the medical pod, I believe.
Yeah.
It does look very medical.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing that you'll notice on productions like this as well is that often the display is facing the wrong way. Like the person's supposed to be using the display, but like with this one, the display was facing the camera because that's the presentation side.
Yeah.
So the person's sitting there going, I'll check on the monitor. Like, why is it not facing you? My monitor's facing. I don't have my monitor's facing the other way. But that, yeah, those little things, they do make me chuckle. It's but it's also, again, it's something when you can tell the difference between stage and screen, because you know the stuff that's meant for screen, because it's engineered that way. It's meant to look that way. They've built it that, in a particular way. And it's the same with, you get the same thing with stage actors. Stage actors will always face forward. You know when you're dealing with a stage actor or a TV actor, because a TV actor will only hit their marks, whereas a stage actor will hit their marks, but they'll always face forward. They always got to face the audience. You never turn your back to the audience, and that's rule number one with the stage acting. And you'll get that, and you can tell when somebody that you're having a conversation with them, and they'll still be facing this way, and the person will be talking to them that way, But yeah, no, I think the quality of the production on Space 1999, considering 1975, I'm trying to think of something that actually parallels it, and I'm struggling.
Outside of Hollywood, there's nothing.
I can't even think of inside of Hollywood. I'm trying to think of a TV series production on this level whereby everything is built from the ground up.
I mean, I suppose you've got the station on 2001, but other than that, there's not a lot, is there?
Well, that's mean, but that's obviously like a movie. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of TV show in the 1970s. I mean, obviously the original series of Star Trek is like 10 years earlier.
Yeah, I mean, the sets in Star Trek are good, but yeah, the effects work outside. I mean, until they did the updated versions, you had warp nacelles disappearing, all fuzzy, where they haven't got the lighting quite right on the CSO. But yeah, in terms of this quality, I don't think there was anything. This kind of set a new precedent. I mean, Buck Rogers was five or 6 years after this.
Yeah, I mean, Buck Rogers is kind of. I see. I don't think the sets in Buck Rogers are the same scale as this.
No, they're not.
I don't remember them being as impressive as this.
There's a lot of matte work in Buck Rogers. A lot of matte work.
I mean, Galactica was.
I was thinking about Battlestar Galactica. I mean, okay, it's a few years later. What was that? That was 78, wasn't it? That.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe Battlestar Galactica is probably it. Because I'm thinking of not just the set design and production values, but the amount of extras, the amount of uniforms, because you've got to remember, like anytime you had somebody in this, you had to make their clothing for them.
Yeah.
It's nothing that you're going to get off the rack. Whereas, and again, the same thing with Galactica. Although I again say half the wardrobe for the civilians was probably stuff that they already had in the studio.
And of course, in between Space 1999 and Battlestar Galactica, you got this little thing called Star Wars happening.
Yeah, but again, I don't compare TV shows to movies. Because...
No, I don't normally, but the production on this is so good.
Yeah, you had the Star Wars effects, because you could really tell, like, science fiction that was made before it and after it, you can really see where the impact Star Wars was made. And
I mean, John Dykstra, man. What can you say? John Dykstra changed. People want to credit anybody. Dykstra's the person to credit for that. He literally changed the way miniatures were filmed. He changed the industry massively. I mean, him, Douglas Trumbull. I would say Douglas Trumbull. Because obviously his work from 2001 on was good, but literally how you shot a model was totally changed when Dykstra came along. When Dykstra said, "No, I've got this thing called the Dykstra Flex camera, and we're going to shoot it this way," that changed the entire industry, and they never went back. They never went back to it.
The model shot on here, you had that little sort of like square satellite dish spinning round.
Yes.
You know, I've got a fairly good idea that a lot of film companies and special effect companies may have looked at that because it's pre, like we've said, it's 1975. So it's before Star Wars. It's before a hell of a lot of things. It's before the Star Trek movies, the
Mhm.
Alien film. Yeah, I just wonder if they looked at that because when you look at the way that looks like it's kit bashed and put
Yes.
together, and it's got that grey finish on it, but it's a mottled grey finish to make it look like it's made of metal
I
and
mean, again,
I'm wondering.
you're dealing with the people like again like Martin Bauer working on this. Uh, the entire team, to be honest, with Brian Johnson again, uh, and they're building this at a different level as well because this has a dedicated studio at Pinewood. I think actually I want to say Shepperton. I know the thing. I got a feeling the model unit was Shepperton. Um,
See, now you're saying you don't compare movies and television.
mhm.
Pinewood and Shepperton are movie studios, movies, movie sound stages.
Well,
So
yeah, but yeah, but I mean, the workshop at Shepperton, I believe, is where they were at. Um,
I just think of another television program with the sets with that kind of scale. What about Batman, the Batcave?
I mean, yeah, but that was a one set. That was a one set deal. That was
Yeah,
a
that's yeah, it was just the one. Yeah.
and I mean, because the other thing as well, like if you look at the Batman set, the Wayne Manor set, that actually was a reuse set. The that was from a show called 12 O'Clock High.
All right.
So that was actually a rebuilt, and again, some of the stuff in the Batman set was a lot of the stuff like the Burroughs 205 Datatrons were reused light boxes from Lost in Space. So there was a lot of stuff brought in. I believe I got a feeling. Don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling. You know the nuclear reactor in Batman. I've got a feeling it came from the man from Uncle.
no, it's
I
entirely possible.
Yeah, it is possible. I mean, it is around that same sort of time period, wasn't it? The
I,
two were
I
made.
I've got a feeling it was in that first, and they nabbed it and used it for the reactor for the Batcave, and because it was I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. I think most of the stuff for the Batcave was actually reused stuff. Um, yeah, I've got a feeling the react. The only thing I'm not sure of is the giant ducts that go up. Um, but most of the stuff, the Datatrons, I know were reuses. Some of the boxes for because you've got two different Datatrons there actually. You've got the Datatron two Burroughs 205, which is the rectangular one with all the lights on.
Well, the flashing lights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which they stuck on the top to make the bat computer, but it's also the navigational aid computer. It's whatever they needed it to be. But
Yeah.
you've also got the Datatron Bank, which is not this huge, like organ-sized thing with a load of lights on the front of it, and that's over on the side, and that's a I got a feeling it's a Datatron 305. I don't know 300 something like that. It's of the same. It's of the same thing, but the actual Datatron banks are actually in the back as well. You can actually see either side in the cave with the proper tapes in them. They're actually 10-inch tapes, and it's all there. But they are reuses, so there's that. The water dispenser is actually a water dispenser. They didn't need to put the label on it.
Yeah.
The map of Gotham City, I believe, is actually I think it's Chicago.
Yeah, I think it is Chicago. Yeah.
So that's that was a reuse from another show. I got a feeling that was Man from Uncle as well. So it's like they nabbed stuff from everywhere. But yeah, the Wayne Manor set came from 12 O'Clock High. because it was supposed to be this. It was a show made in America about a military base set in England during the Second World War, and it was supposed to be this Tudor mansion, and it got dismantled. The set got dismantled, and they nabbed it for Batman, and they designed the set around it, and they just used some stock walls there just to fill it out. But yeah, that's where it came from.
Well, according to the Moonbase Alpha website,
Yes.
under their SFX section, it
Yes.
says after investing lots of effects and effort in Guardian of Piri, which is episode 11, this episode uses just alpha sets and minimal effects: the blue light pass no for alpha, the revolving radar scanner, Moonbase buildings exploding. Note the nice shot of lights going out over the base. There are no eagle shots, so
Yes. Yeah.
so it looks like they've done all the money on another episode. So, like you say,
They
it's
did,
a
yeah.
bottle. It's the bottle
It's
episode
a bottle
for that.
episode. They bottled it.
Yeah, they sure did.
But I mean, look, this thing they spent the money on where they needed to spend it on, which was on the equipment, because they didn't rent anything here. This was all bought, all this stuff. The cameras that they were using were Mitchell cameras. They could have gone with Panavision, but Panavision only rent. They don't. You can't buy a Panavision, so you can only rent it. And the same with the lenses. So and the lenses for this would have been on a Mitchell camera, maybe Olympus, but I don't think so. I got a feeling that they're going to be, because it's a PL mount system. So I'm gonna say it's going to be somewhere between Canon or Cook.
We know the
lenses.
names. We know the names. We've got a feeling to me and Chris, you're just talking camera. We don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's way outside my area of expertise.
But it's not cheap, right? And the reason why I bring it up is because this is where the professionalism comes into play on this. Is that something like a Canon, the Cook lenses, for example, they are not to buy a set of Cook lenses. Say you were to buy 5 of them, right? If you want to buy 5 Cook lenses for your cameras today, it'll cost you anywhere in between £52,000 to £90,000.
Jesus.
Right? That's it. Right? I'll guarantee you this, right? If you were to buy a Mitchell camera today, I'll guarantee you, if you were to buy a 1970s 35mm Mitchell camera, that'll cost you anywhere between £3,000 to £6,000 because of the actual quality of these machines. And the reason why I brought up the lenses is because when we were watching this episode, any time that you would film something through a camera, through a Mitchell camera, it's the same with the Panavision, but by buying these cameras, like if you were to go with Panavision will charge you for a camera and the lenses throughout the entire production. Hollywood used Panavision all the time. That Panavision stayed in business because they're just renting cameras and lenses everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine the amount of money they're reeling in. And because they don't sell them, they get returned. They ship them out to a new production. Bring them back, ship them out to a new production. But with this, they bought the Mitchell cameras. They bought the lenses for it, and they're using when a cameraman uses these sorts of things, you look down the viewfinder, you're not actually seeing through the lens. You're seeing through the viewfinder, so you can't see through the lens. So when you're shooting something like this is why you see people with the light meter taking the light measurements, and then they go and measure something with a tape, because the tape measure tells you where focus is. That's how it works. You measure something to say, this person's standing 10 feet away, so I'll set the lens to 10 feet, and that's how it works. And you only know what you've captured the next day when you look at the dailies. And that's the level of professionalism that you're dealing with when you can see these shots. Like, these days, it's totally different game these days. You can get the live feed on the monitor. You can just sit down, watch the monitor, and go, all right, do it again. Do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. No, it's wrong. Back then, it was a case of, right then, we're running at 25 frames a second. That means we're using 90 feet of film every minute. Right? So and 90 feet of film is going to cost you, every 200 feet of film is going to cost you £60. Right, back end probably about £25, right? But it's still, you know,
It's
so
still
every single,
expensive. Yeah.
yes, and that this all comes into the production cost. So you know that they wouldn't have shot a lot of B-roll for this because it would have been too expensive to have just run the cameras. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this
You weren't far off with the prices of these cameras. I just called it up on eBay to have a look. It's in dollars, I'm afraid. But
yeah.
a Mitchell 35mm standard GC high speed motion picture camera system refurbished is a fiver short of £5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And there's someone here. What would you film with a 65mm camera?
That's just like IMAX.
All right, because a Mitchell
It's just the size of the film.
FC 65mm camera, a complete camera system,
It's
in
gonna be
dollars.
expensive.
In dollars, 28,950.
Yeah, yeah. It's not going to be cheap. That's just the brain. That's without the glass.
I always
No
thought
lenses.
it was like standard procedure to just rent. I didn't realise that they had
No.
actually bought the cameras. The only other example I can
You
think
can
of.
buy Canon. You can buy Arri. These days, Arri are everywhere. Arri
Right.
just brilliant. But my personal favourite is Black Magic. Black Magic had changed the game. Absolutely changed the game. What a brilliant company.
The only example I can think of off the top of my head where the production team bought the cameras rather than renting them was Tommy Wiseau when he was filming The Room.
Yeah. Well, so there is a reason. There is a precedent for it, and that's because some cameramen like to work with their cameras. So some cameramen like to bring their own equipment. It's only productions whereby it's a really huge production, whereby, like films or whatever. The reason why it's all rented for films is because it all has to be returned. Once it's over, it's over, and they're responsible. The studio is responsible for that. So for example, when they done like any Star Trek production, any Bond production or anything like that, at the end of the production, it all gets destroyed. And all the models get destroyed, all the sets get destroyed. The costumes go into storage, but that's about it. Everything else is just literally just gotten rid of. You'd find most of the stuff ends up in a skip, and so everything just because basically how filmmaking works really is that what you do is you go to say Pinewood Studios, right? And anybody can rent. This is something that a lot of people don't know. Anybody can rent Pinewood Studios, right? I was looking at how much it costs to rent the Bond stage for a day, and I was going to rent it just so I could go there. Right? It's about £500 a day, right? Let me just put it on the screen.
There you go. I thought I'd show you what it was.
Yeah, yeah. There it is. There's one up. Yeah, and that there. Looking at that looks like it's a Mitchell camera. That looks like an old one. That looks like it's a 1960s.
Well, it says Pathé News on it, so
yeah.
I mean, I can.
I would say 60s or even older, in fact, because it's got the triple lens on it, and you don't normally have that. That's a 35mm system, but it's.
I know it's a serious piece of kit, that isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at that lot. Yeah, approximately £21,358 and 22 pence.
You think that's expensive? Take a look at how much the glass costs, and I'll guarantee you, lenses will shock people. You go to something like Cook, and have a look at the prices of the lenses.
Cook lenses, is that Cook with an E on the end?
With an E on the end, yeah. It'll be called Cook Optics, I think.
Cook
Possibly.
lens, camera lenses and filters. There we go.
Yeah, and there'd be a PL mount. So, look, there's a used one there, 32mm. Sorry,
That's only
It's over £4,000.
Yes,
I mean, bloody hell.
yeah, but that's been pre-owned, man. You don't want that. It's a 25 to 200 minute. Oh, that's not bad actually. 4,600. That's.
Oh yeah, great. I'll have 4.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, man. When you buy see that one there. Go back up. Go back up. See that one there? Down a little bit. See there's a selection there. See them? 5
Yeah.
Lomo.
Yeah.
So those are for the Ari, and they are Zeiss lenses. The Carl Zeiss lenses, right? It says Zeiss Cook, but it's not. I mean, they might be Cook optics, but those are Carl Zeiss lenses, PL mounts, 6,879. Those are pre-owned. They are prime lenses as well. They're not even telephoto. If you go down a little bit, you'll see a section of 5.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, it's 32.5 grand.
Again, pre-owned. You won't. Lenses are incredible for these cameras. They really are. And now those ones are going to be. Some of them are going to be telephoto. Some of them are going to be prime lenses. They're proper cine lenses. They're all PL mounts. So they are. Oh, it was S4. I should. Yeah, S4 PL mount. Yeah. It just means that there are certain mounts you can convert them to an EF. But why would you want to? If you've got a camera for that, you don't change it to an EF mount. You don't. Yeah,
Chris, what the bloody hell's an EF?
I was hoping someone would be able to let me know. Yeah.
It's just the configuration on the actual mount itself. It's the way it plugs in, and
okay.
it connects to when you connect it in. It connects to electronic pins, so you can actually set it to autofocus or auto exposure, and you can actually just set it up automatically, and you can configure it that way, or you can go to manual and do it yourself. I always go manual. I don't do it on automatic, but yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, like when you come onto a production like this, you get given an empty room, and this is how productions work. All productions work. You say, right, we want a studio. They give you the studio. They say, right then, how much is this going to cost? Right, well, how much do you want it for? 6 weeks. Like, it's going to cost you £1,500 a week. Right, for the studio, and we're talking a small conservative studio. We're not talking a big stage here. We're talking a small box room. So it's about £1,500 a week to rent. You want it for 6 weeks, so there you go. There's what's that? 9,000 just for renting an empty room. Then lighting, you got to put that in. So you rent that because you don't want to keep it because you're going to go to store it. You got your cameras, your sound, your sets. You got to get the carpenters in because you need to build them. You got to get the set painters, set decorators. Yeah, you got your costumers, your makeup, all this stuff. So you rent everything because at the end of this production, when it shuts down, you've got to leave that room exactly as you found it. It's got to be empty. So at the end of it all, everything goes back to where you rented it from, and anything that you've got left goes in the skip. And that's how these productions work.
Oh, could you imagine if you were renting the room out that's got the command center of Moonbase Alpha in it? When they're finished, they say, "Right, we're going to strip it." It's like, no, leave it. I'll keep hold of that. Thanks.
Yeah, it literally they took a crowbar to it and it all went in the bin.
Yeah,
all of it.
No.
And if the thing with Pinewood as well is that behind Pinewood Studios there's a big, huge piece of ground which has been used for everything, right? And what they normally do there is they take it and burn it, and that's had everything there. We're talking the sets for Batman '89 were built there, and they were torn down and burnt. The sets for Harry Potter.
I'm trying to picture, someone taking a crowbar and smashing up the sets for The Spy Who Loved Me. Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh.
that's the way it is though. Because the thing is, you can't do anything about it because technically the studio owns it.
Yeah.
So it's if they own it, and what do you do at the end of it? You can't keep it because there's nowhere to store it. These studios are empty rooms. That's all they are. When somebody says, "Oh, they've gone to a film studio," it's an empty room. It's a big empty room. It's a barn. And at the end of it, it has to be an empty room. And that's all it is. sometimes they provide. I think if you go onto Pinewood's page, you can hire things like blue screen rooms and things like that, blue screen studios that have already got all the stuff in. So you just hire the room and you hire it like that now. But it's very different because back then it was literally like walking into an empty factory. And I've worked on plenty of productions as well myself, whereby, I mean, I'll never forget the first day I walked in, and this is nowhere near the same league, right? But when the first day I walked in to do an episode of Formula Come, and I walked in to that studio and I saw exactly what it was that we were working with, and it was just like, wow. I was expecting, ceiling lights. I was expecting, and what we were dealing with was a set on the side of this big empty room with all blacked out curtains everywhere, and it was just like it looked weird because it looked like somebody had taken the set off a stage and just dumped it in the middle of this empty room, and that's all it looked like. It didn't look like any sort of. But when they shot it, it was just like, oh no, it looked like somebody's lounge, and but it was weird. But that you get used to that sort of thing when you work on something like that. It's just, I mean, I'm going back a bit now. I'm going back, bloody hell, 24 years, I think, to that. But it's, yeah, that's just how these shows work, and all of them work. The guest sets are the same thing, unless they've built something really specific. Guest sets are thrown out every week. Every week, it's amazing the amount of money that gets absolutely trashed. Just like for example, Star Trek: The Next Generation. The sets for the Next Generation bridge. I mean, it cost millions of pounds to build, but at the end of Generations, it was scrapped. It was demolished. That was it. The production was over. Done with the Enterprise D. Gone. And I mean, if you see it, it's heartbreaking, to be honest, though.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Enterprise D bridge, but even so, oh no.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's
so you can
heartbreaking.
see
So
it.
he's gonna show us. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Cheers in advance. Yeah.
So look, yeah, because it's I've seen it somewhere, and
Oh, bugger. You know what's going to happen now? I'm going to get loads and loads of notifications on my phone from eBay telling me about camera lenses now for the next week.
Yeah.
oh dear me.
I don't think I was logged in on that one, so I might be all right.
Okay. Yeah, you might get away with it. Yeah.
I don't know if I can find it. I've got it somewhere, but I've seen the actual bridge itself, whereby it's demolished and the roof is in bits, and you can actually see like the shuttle bay behind the shuttle bay set. So where it's just like, but yeah, I mean it happens all the time on these sorts of productions. So it's good that the models survive, to be honest, though.
Yeah.
So yeah. I want to take a look at. Actually, before we go any further, let's actually talk a bit more about this episode itself. Obviously, we mentioned the level of talent before we started watching this with David Tomlin, Frank Watts, Peter Pennell, just all these amazing, talented people that went on to do just fantastic work elsewhere. Well, Peter Pennell, editor Superman 4.
Yeah. We'll skip that one. Yeah.
But some of them went on to do some really.
It had some interesting concepts, but it was rubbish.
Yeah.
That was a terrible film.
But I mean, there was a lot of great talent pool here. Again, Frank Watts, cameraman. He actually was the cinematographer on 44 of the episodes for Space 1999. So yeah, I think that you can see where by the talent pool here, you can see where the British film arts they weren't wasting their money here. They were getting the right people in to do the right job. But I think it's time we hand this episode a rating. I think we've gone back and forth. We've talked about the good. We talked about the bad.
Yeah.
Like the blocking in this is shockingly funny. It is, but then again, the part of that is to do with the fact that they probably couldn't do another take.
No, it wouldn't have been an option, would it? So, yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, the acting performances are absolutely solid. Martin Landau, I think, is always solid.
Yeah.
Hey kids, Sal Bandini, want to wrestle? So I gotta do it. Barbara Bain is just frozen, stiff as a board.
No. That's what she was actually like, Colwyn. Anton didn't get to her. That was actually her acting, mate.
Wow. So that's where they had the concept of frozen and carbonate from. Oh dear me. I mean, you've got like what's the guy's name? Because some people in this the delivery is very natural. And other people are just like Barbara Bain.
Well, I know Barry Morse also gets a bit of a tough time from critics. Oh, I don't think he's bad.
No, but when I look at Barry Morse, you can understand why I cut my hair like I do, because
But
there's no way I could have done that.
I think where he's playing, cause like he's playing Professor Bergman, right?
Yeah.
And I think that he is trying to deliver it in a way whereby he's trying to be stoic, and it's kind of difficult to get. He's trying to be stoic without being he's trying to be scientific
without being Spock.
Yes, yeah. He's trying to be. He's trying to stand off from putting emotion into it, was not being inhuman. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do. Whereby, particularly when you're supposed to be in some sort of crisis. So it's going to be hit. It's kind of like you're going to be hitting and missing from different sides there. You're either going to be somebody's cup of tea or you're not, and it's tricky. We've got a Star Siege player says, I really liked Morse in that show. Yeah, let's have a look, because again, Ian McShane was great.
Yeah, we got another Barry Morse fan, so there we go. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, Star Siege player, yeah, you're all right in my books. I'm sure that'll mean the world to him.
Well, by the way, Clifton Jones was in this as well. Clifton Jones, good actor. Was in Star Trek: The Next Generation as a Klingon and helmsman. I believe wasn't Clifton. Wasn't he one of the ensigns in? Oh God, he gets killed. I know he does.
I can't put a face to the name.
Oh, he's a black actor. I'm fairly certain he gets killed. I'm fairly certain he plays an ensign in The Next Generation. He plays a Klingon, but he plays an ensign as well. But I'm pretty sure when he plays the ensign, he gets killed. I'm fairly certain. But again, he's come up. He did done things like Dixon the Dock Green and Public Eye and Danger Man. Everybody's done Danger Man. If they were alive in the '60s and they were acting, they done Danger Man.
Danger Man in the '60s was that was the '60s version of the Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't even born yet, and I'm pretty sure I've done it. It's.
Well, a lot of things about Carwin tonight. He's been in Danger Man and in bed with Ian Lovejoy. Ian Lovejoy McShane.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. I've had worse offers. Yeah, I think maybe we're going to have to hand this episode a rating. So I think, Chris, I'm going to come to you first.
We're both called Chris, so I'm assuming you mean me.
I'm going to. Well, if I said Lucas, I would have said Lucas.
I know. I was just taking a piss.
Yeah, that's unlike you, isn't it? Yeah.
I think I am going to give this a 7.5. And the reason for why I'm going to give it a 7.5 is I do agree with Lucosa that the story is quite sparse. Even though it's not terrible, it is quite sparse. So I've knocked off, I was going to knock off a few points for that. But the reason it's gone back up to 7.5 is because the sets are outstanding, the lighting's outstanding. As you've just been saying, the acting is outstanding. The team behind it are all outstanding. I think what lets this down the most is the story, even though it's enjoyable and I'll be quite happy to watch it again. Yeah, after
Writing a bottle episode is a very difficult thing to do.
yeah, it is.
It really is,
especially the episode it was following. So yeah, I'm going to give it 7.5 from me, and that's still not a bad score, I don't think.
No, that's way better than anything that we rated the last season of Doctor Who on. So look, 7.5 from Chris. Lucosa, over to you.
It's not a story that grabs me. There's not enough there. Plus points are what pretty much has already been covered. Fantastic sets, as you're always going to get in this. It is well acted, but there's just not enough to grab my interest. It's one of those episodes I can't really get into it. I won't be sorry if I don't see it again. I was hoping that it was going to be better than I remembered it, but no, it's not. I'll be a bit generous. I'll give it 5, but that's as good as I can give it.
That's perfectly fine. It's your score, man. You can give it whatever you want. I'm going to be a little bit more generous than that because I do like the characterization from Ian McShane. I do like seeing his character crumble. I know he is the focus of the story, and it's a bottle episode, so bottle episodes are never going to be high anyway. I don't from any production, no matter what it is, unless it's done. I mean, I'm trying to think of really great bottle episodes of anything, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But again, amazing camera work. The camera work in this is a tutorial in how to frame people and how to choose lenses for displaying different moods of thinking. You can almost from the camera work you can tell when things turn manic. Without this could be a silent film and you would know. So that's an amazing thing. I think the sound design in this is really good. There's not much in the way of music that gets in the way here.
No, there isn't, is there?
And so the sound design is pretty much what you're reliant on, which is pretty good. The editing's quite sharp, though in some places it could be sharper. But it's difficult to say because obviously we don't know what we're dealing with there in terms of how the director thought it should be shot. I thought it was directed well, though, for the most part. There are one or two shots whereby you're kind of going, should have had another take on that.
Yeah.
But story-wise, yeah, you're right. I think the story is a little one note, but I'm going to be a little bit more generous than you, Lucosa, and I'm going to say I'm going to give it a 7. I think I'm going to give it. I take a point off for the blocking. The actor's blocking in this is horrendous, and I'm taking a point off of Barbara Bain just because.
You said about how difficult it is to write a bottle episode. I think of the things I've watched recently that I'd consider bottle episodes, I think the bar was set by William Hartnell's Edge of Destruction. in Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
that is a very good bottle episode, but it's still, it's you can see the production there. You can see where um, it's good, but it's not amazing. Whereas there are
Yeah.
better Hartnell episodes. So even
Yeah.
if even if that was like an 8 out of 10, there's still 10 out of 10s elsewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So a bottle episode is never going to beat the full production ever on anything. As far as I can't think of a single bottle episode that's ever done that anyway. Because most of the time, most of the big episodes from any show have tended to be much better in terms of production value. But production value in this is outstanding anyway because they've inherited it, I guess. They inherited the sets, the costumes, and all that. But yeah, there are dumb decisions. There are logic loopholes in this that this is the other reason why I take the point off as well is for that. Anytime you got a logic hole in a story, you kind of got to go, oh man, come on. It's that I know some people when you're dealing with a horror, and maybe this would have worked a little bit better had they gone a little more into the horror of we trapped in here with the killer.
Yeah, it certainly would have helped. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it was a bit like it's kind of like we trapped in here with the killer, but we're in a football stadium.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's armed with nothing. So it's the threat level you didn't really feel it, from the story at least. So yeah, 7. I think that's a good score for it. So what are we at?
That's
20.
20.5.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's still
That's about 68% or something like that. That's not bad
yeah. That's
for a bottle episode.
yeah. That's all right. That is. Again, we've given worse ratings.
Yeah. First one of these I did. Yeah, that got a hell of a rating. That.
I can't even remember what that was.
Invasion of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget it because for about a week afterwards he was moaning about it to me. The first one I've done it, you get me on to do that.
It was, yeah, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Wow. Man, that was a time to jump on.
Yeah. Yeah. I picked a real winner there.
Well, I think we're going to wrap things up now, but next week we're going to be doing Doctor Who and the Aztecs. William Hartnell.
Yeah. And this is another one where I think I could be the odd one out again because I know it's a story that is considered a classic.
Be careful of what the gunfight does.
Well, no, it certainly is. It's going to be better than that. But it's never grabbed me, although it has been a long time since I saw it all the way through. That said,
has a really good production design on it.
yeah, it does do that. What doesn't really work in its favour is the last couple of times that I started watching it. By the time I got to the end of episode 2, I was like, I've had enough of this. Yeah. So I've only ever been able to watch it all the way through once. That doesn't bode well.
We'll have a good time. Siege Players had to say good night, lads. So yeah,
later, mate.
Thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll see you next week for Doctor Who and the Aztecs. Take care.
See you later.